Good morning. Welcome to Rashi Parasha Study Parashat Nitzavim. Here we have an interesting pasuk that Rashi deals with in a variety of ways. What we're actually going to see is probably impossible that all three interpretations were said by Rashi simultaneously. There's one order where there could be a maximum of two, and somehow different configurations added in all three together. But we'll talk about it, and I want to focus on specifically the second one. Veshav Adonai et Shavutecha. That's the pasuk that we're going to be dealing with. Shav, return. Veshav Hashem. Hashem will return et Shavutecha, and then your captivity. Now, normally in Hebrew, keep in mind when you say the word Shav, we mean to say that that person himself will be Shav, will return. But then you say et Shavutecha, your captivity, it becomes a little bit confusing. Who is returning? Is it Hashem returning, the Shav Hashem Okecha, or is it Shavutecha that's returning? In which case, it should say not a Veheshiv in the Hifa'il, which connotes a Poal Yotze doing an action to another. Veheshiv Hashem et Shavutecha. That's Rashi's problem, grammatical problem, in which he's facing. If you wanted to say God is going to return someone else, you say Veheshiv. If you want to say God is going to return, say Veshav. But then if you say God is returning, how do you explain the word Shavutecha, your captivity? Veshav Bitzcha Mikol Ha'amim, and again it does it again at the continuation of the pasuk. Veshav Bitzcha Mikol Ha'amim. He's going to return and gather you from all the other nations. Again, you should say He's going to return you. So Rashi says we have precedent for this. This language of God returning himself when it's really referring to another person, Sefer sometimes, it's written in what we call binyan pa'al, binyan kal, instead of binyan hif'il. And it happens sometimes that when we're talking about the word specifically return, okay, we say God will return himself, and then we act, but we mean really to somebody else, or Shavutecha. But Rashi continues, and it could be this is really where the Ibn HaMatahil is supposed to begin. He says, and therefore he brings the drash from right? So really what they're saying is the reason why it's written this way, because it's not just God is returning you, God himself is returning. And here the rabbis learned this beautiful idea that the Shekhinah is with Am Yisrael, Shekhinah Imahim, wherever they go, wherever they travel, Am Yisrael, Hashem is with them, even though the Galut reflects the breakdown of the presence of Shekhinah and Am Yisrael's midst. Here we're learning there is an aspect God is going to be with them, sure they don't get destroyed, ensure that there's a continuity to Am Yisrael. And therefore, Hashem is constantly with them. And therefore, he says, okay, no, Nigalim, Ichtiv Geolah Atzmo. So Veshav Hashem, he's returning and he's also returning as well. Obviously, that wouldn't work for the pasuk of Shavti and Shavut and Amud. So here Rashi is going to give us a third pirush, which is kind of similar to the first pirush. But if he said the first one, it doesn't make sense. He would say the third one, so probably the first one should not be existent. But he says as follows: and he says like this, that in order to return Am Yisrael, or anybody from Galut, it's so difficult that God has to go himself and hold their hands. The Shav, so God is returning, not because he was always there, but he had to go, exile himself, and to bring you back. So now, it works with Galut. Shadamot isn't going to help answer Shavut B'nei Amon. And here's a great concept that we're seeing. And the concept, I think, is important for us to realize. The Midrash is not perfect. The Midrash answers a local question, but it doesn't fit with the rest of Tanakh. It doesn't answer the concept of what are you going to do about Amon? You want to say Hashem is Amon Shigoleh Shechinah Imahim? Obviously, you don't want to say that. And therefore, we need our Pshat answers to deal with the question on the same level. Okay, maybe I can answer why it says it this way, Pshat, but at the end of the day, we can still acknowledge that, yes, there's an answer to Pshat, But if you're asking Pshat what they would prefer, it should be Veheshi, even after the answer. And therefore, it leaves room for the Midrash to coexist simultaneously. And there's a beautiful idea the Midrash is learning. Shechinai Mahin. You're right, it's not going to be a proof that's going to work throughout Tanakh, but it's not the Midrash's goal. The Midrash's goal is to learn lessons, is to actively be Doresh the Pasuk, not read the Pasuk as is, but to try to learn lessons from it, find the problem, and expound on it, and really draw out messages for Am Yisrael, whether or not it's the exact intent of the Pasuk. The Midrash is not concerned with, because it's true idea within itself, and it could fit within this local pasuk. The Midrash is going to say it, and I think that's an important lesson always for all of us to realize the power of the Midrash and its relationship to the Pshat of the text. Hopefully, we will have a Shabbat Shalom and Tizkul Shanim Rabot.